It's a little hard. I'm from California, so if I sound like I'm unable to put words together, just understand it's 5 o'clock my body time. I'm Jolene Kester. I've recently retired as president of California State University Northridge. I can't even say I'm emeritus yet because the Board of Trustees hasn't officially acted on that. But let's just say I'm more rested than I was several months ago, right before I retired. I am the chair of the steering committee for the College Readiness Partnership. And as such, I'm very pleased to be here today to participate in this entire meeting. Quite an extraordinary event, actually, for all of us to be here together focusing on implementing the Common Core state standards. And I'm going to facilitate this program this morning. I agreed to introduce the program this morning and then immediately turn the microphone over to Jillian Starman from Kentucky, who's going to give us some important housekeeping details. Jillian.
Good morning, and for those who were not here yesterday and are new to Kentucky, welcome. I hope you're enjoying our facility here, and if you get some chance this evening, it looks like we've ordered some good weather for you, so please enjoy all of that as well we brought in. Yesterday in the afternoon session in G, if anybody lost a ring, please see me. In your packet, you have an evaluation form. That is for the whole day. If when you finish today or tomorrow, if you could please leave those in the basket on the registration desk, we would really appreciate it. Feedback from this is very valuable to us. If anybody has driven in today rather than staying at the hotel, if you would see Kathy also at the registration desk, she can give you the validation for parking. Otherwise you'll be paying for your parking for the day. And then I just wanted to give you a layout. You do have a map of the facility in your packet. Right directly behind me are the two breakout rooms F and G. And if you go up the escalator, the other 4 rooms are up there. And so as you move throughout your day, hopefully you'll be able to find your way through. If you have any questions about anything, please see either me. Jill Gately from AASCU is also sitting at the registration table. And we have Kathy Matheson. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin this morning with the world of the perfect. None of us live in it, but we're going to talk about what, in a perfect world, statewide collaboration to implement the Common Core state standards would look like. Our 4 panelists are each going to speak for about 7 minutes. I'm going to do my best to try to keep them to that time period. They are each going to discuss from their perspective with their particular constituencies how they see those constituencies best involved in implementing the Common Core standards. Then we're going to open this conversation up. I've got some questions for the panelists, and I suspect that many of you do as well. So we will move to use the remaining part of our time to probe this world of the perfect. I'm going to introduce all 4 people at the beginning and then just simply ask each of them to come forward as each of the speakers completes their initial remarks. We're going to begin with Muriel Howard, who is president of the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. Jean Wilhoit, Executive Director of the Council of Chief State School Officers, Paul Lingenfelter, who is the President of the State Higher Education Executives Officers, and conclude with Dane Lynn, who is Executive Director of State Strategy for the College Board, who is going to speak specifically to the need to engage legislators, governors, and other state policy leaders. So we're in for a treat with these incredibly competent leaders who have been pushing to make this college readiness partnership a reality. Muriel, let's begin with you.
Good morning. Thank you, Jolene. I guess I would like to change the title of our presentation around and say, what would a perfect statewide collaboration look like in an imperfect world? Because quite frankly, after hearing Kentucky's presentation last night and some of the work they're doing, I think that is likely going to be more of what we will face, that we will continue to be in an imperfect world, but we will move towards perfect implementation of the Common Core strategies, and I think that state is well on its way. AASCU is excited about being a contributor, a partner, and a collaborator, and participating in this dialogue, which we hope will lead to the perfect implementation of the Common Core standards. For the higher education sector, specifically the four-year sector, implementation of the standards is as important to us as it is to the K-12 sector, to policymakers, to business leaders, families, and civic leaders. It is so important to us because AASCU institutions prepare about 50% of the teachers in America. Hence, I believe our stakeholders and our beneficiaries are one and the same. Our students are your students, and your students are ours. Our colleges and universities, as our P through 12 partners, do more than prepare students for diplomas and degrees. As a former college president, I was always cognizant of the fact that the university was also responsible for helping to build and develop strong communities. I believe my superintendent colleagues believe the same, but our data clearly tells us at the four-year level that if we prepare teachers, that they tend to remain in the regions in which they were prepared. And so there's this endless circle of education that occurs across the P through 20 sector. Those individuals remain there as teachers, and they build their lives there. Having said that, I think there are a number of things that would help us move toward successful implementation as we look at the higher education sector. First, I think the most compelling reason for looking at this issue is the quality of the architecture and the technical structure and content of the Common Core state standards. And I have to say we should all thank Gene Wilhoit for his leadership. The Common Core state standards have been pummeled, they've been turned upside down, they've been punched. Absolutely every group in America has taken a look at these standards, and they still stand strong. And so I think that is the most compelling reason for higher education in our sector to become intensely engaged with our faculty, our staff, and our students, and with our key stakeholders, including the P through 12 sector, to ensure the implementation of the Common Core standards. At our level, there is also a growing expectation that there will be student success. Professors can no longer look to the left, look to the right, and say to two of those students that you will no longer be here. But the cost and investment that people are making in higher education, the value that people see for us to be competitive in the world, it is now critical that we try and have as many of our students to be successful graduates as possible. And so college success is being tied to the competitive future of America. Our stakeholders also want a seamless experience for students who are going from high school to college, and they want that pathway to be clear and transparent. And they also want to see a roadmap that's similar for transfer opportunities for two-year students. And so trying to engage our faculty and staff to connect to the Common Core standards and then connect to our two-year partners is a big challenge for us. But we're beginning to see that through leadership, our colleges and universities are taking this initiative on. Another compelling factor for us is the significant cost of developmental and remedial instruction. It is a major challenge for our institutions, and for some of us, we've explained it as a way to provide access. But the cost, according to the Alliance for Excellent Education in 2007 and 2008, for 2- and 4-year institutions was $3.6 billion that we were spending at the higher education level on developmental and remedial education. And I really didn't believe that number, so I went back and started looking at it institution by institution, and there was an institution in Maryland that had spent $3.2 million in 1 year on developmental and remedial education. And so I believe that the effective implementation of the Common Core standards will help us to address this challenge so that we can deploy those dollars in other ways. In addition, we are all, except for 4 or 5 states in higher education, under great financial strain for sufficient operating dollars. But at the federal level and also at the state level, our financial aid support is also experiencing a strain. This past year, we reduced the amount of financial aid that a student will be able to receive in terms of year-round Pell support. We've been able to maintain the level that they will receive, but the access to it is waning. So effective implementation of the Common Core standards can help us there. Another significant challenge is tied to trying to figure out what do we mean by a student completing a successful baccalaureate degree. Each of us in this room can probably answer that question, but I don't know if we could gain consensus around what we mean by that. And so how do we define college readiness, career readiness, and how do we look at what the outcomes of a baccalaureate degree means, whether it's through a student profile situation or our current definition of degrees in terms of credit hours and experiences. And so those are some of the challenges that certainly our sector is looking at as we move towards this process and as it relates to implementation of the Common Core standards. Our goal for partnering with the Chief State School Office and SHEEO was to help develop the best models for full and inclusive implementation of the standards. The question of what to do when the state contextual environment is not conducive to engage all relevant parties is very real. It is not a hypothetical question they have thrown at us. And as I speak with campus leaders across the country, many of them are finding themselves in this situation. They may want to move forward with it, but certainly certain stakeholders in your state have not taken this on as a critical challenge, and in some areas within states, the Common Core standards are simply not well understood, even though almost every state in this country has agreed to pursue and signed on to implementation of the Common Core standards. And so what I think we need to do to respond to that issue is I think our associations are going to have to scale up our work. We've been working closely with our institutions, whether they're districts or schools or colleges or universities or state level hierarchies. I think now we're going to have to take on this issue of how do we help states to scale up, state to state. And so I think that's going to be a challenge for our associations to figure out how do we cut across the country to help states that are in not disarray, but all states will come at this in different ways. And in some states it may look messy or different to you. It may not be as structured as some states might have it. But all states certainly need to be encouraged to move forward with the implementation. And the other observation that I have is last night after the fireside chat and certainly during some of the reception time, in talking with individuals, it became clear to me that coming out of this work and this process are some experts. The individuals that are working very hard in your states and at their institutions are becoming experts on understanding the elements and the processes needed to implement the Common Core standards. And so I think we're going to have to mine that expertise identify those individuals, and to help them to spread out across the United States so that all states have an opportunity to prepare the best citizens of the United States. Thank you.
Good morning. It's good to be in Kentucky. It's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere today. Well, I will blame my recent intervention in life to the hard work that Dana and I have done on the Common Core. I think it's caused me to have that heart attack. But make no mistake about it. This country's changing, and K-12 education is on a pathway that we were not on just 4 to 5 years ago. And lest you think these are just sort of arbitrary or disconnected events, you would be wrong. This is something that is a big shift in the way we're thinking about education in this country and the role. You see, we have made a promise to our children that we've never made before. We've said to those children, all of you are going to be our responsibility, not just some of you. And we're going to commit ourselves as adults in this system to make sure that you're a part of this system. And what we've expected of you historically is not enough for your future. We realize that, and if it's going to happen, if all of you are going to be a part of this, and all of you are going to be prepared for a future that is inevitable and is different than anything we've had in our past, then we have to change. We have to change dramatically. Our very future is at stake. So with that kind of a promise, we can't dilly-dally along and be arbitrary about public education in this country. And K-12 then is on a pathway. And that pathway is that we have set new expectations. Those expectations are higher than what we've had in the past. They're more rigorous than they've been in the past. They are, in essence, very different than the expectations we've had of K-12 education. And make no mistake about it, this is not simply taking a serious look at the content we've been delivering to our children to this point and making some adjustments in that process. This is about shifting the kind of knowledge that our students will possess and what those students can do with that knowledge. And in fact, if you look at the Common Core, you won't see a large addition of content. In fact, we have filtered through that plethora of knowledge that's been imparted to children and narrowed it down. It is not expanding content. It is what can those students do to prepare themselves for the futures. And they're going to have to be critical thinkers, they're going to have to be problem solvers, they're going to have to be entrepreneurs, and they're going to have to be ready to face the world that's ahead of them. And every one of them is going to have to face you in higher education. We have said to them it may not be a 4-year degree that we've had in the past. It may be a community technical college education. It might be a technical training program. But all of you walking across the stage in America in the future are going to have to be prepared for the next level of education. That means more of them are going to be seeing you, and our goal is to make sure they're prepared when they get there. So we have set those expectations at a higher level. We now have shared that across the states, and for the first time in our nation's history, the states have agreed that this benchmark of college and career readiness is what they're going to aspire to. That means a tremendous shift in what we have to do in terms of our work. It means, too, that in this process we didn't ask our teachers only, K-12 teachers, what they thought our students should know and be able to do. We went to the consumers of those students, that is higher education and the business community. So these standards are a result of a conversation with higher education. What you told us, and frankly, Dane and I would agree that you told us lots of things. You told us that in many cases, depending on your background, your experience, your position in higher education, we heard very different things, but we pushed you and pushed you and pushed you to the point of clarity. I think that should be helpful to all of us. Now, we can take a serious look at the Common Core standards, and we can improve them, absolutely, over time. But for right now, the states have come into agreement that this is the direction we're going to pursue.